What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid. We're drafting Tuesday. Super Bowl's over. Eagles won, thankfully. Obviously, being a Bengals fan, Chiefs are one of my biggest rivals. Oddly, they're not a division rival, but definitely one of our biggest rivals. So I'm always happy to see the Chiefs lose, especially in the Super Bowl. I had a little Big Mitten 2 going on in the finals. The worst part about that whole game is I was in second place somehow. I didn't think I'd finish any better than, really like seventh, maybe sixth top sort of thing. But I was in second place for the entire game until about 3 minutes left in the fourth, and all those garbage time touchdowns happened, and fell back to fifth, which was actually where I thought was going to be my best possible finish. So it is what it is. I got fifth in the tournament, so that's nice. Nice little boost to the bankroll. So we'll take it. We will certainly take that. So today we're going to jump into Ben. What's happening? Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. We're definitely going to do some drafts. Obviously. Are you doing a countdown? I'm already in. Should be live right now, no? Live now. Can you not see me? Is there an issue? Maybe fire it in the chat. Oh, he's in a big board +9. Give it a sec. I might not jump in that one. So oh, gotcha. No, give me I'm not being sneaky about it. Let me pop this open. There we go. Let's just do that. Not in yet. We're going to do a couple things quick. Just going to talk about some ADP values, at least in my opinion. Some some nice ADP values. So I'm going to jump into a biggest board, although I really hope it's not full. I really would rather not. If it is, then it is what it is. And we'll draft it. But I'm going to go through and just show a couple of ADP values in my opinion. No second, because you're hating on my Chiefs. I didn't know you're a Chiefs fan, Pod Daddy, but we're not everybody's perfect. So just kidding, but that must be why. It kind of broke my heart. But let's jump into the biggest board. I highly doubt that it fills. If it is, again, I guess we're drafting one, but I just want to go through some ADP values and find some values. So waiting on 5. I highly doubt this fills, and we're not drafting a biggest board. Or biggest board. We're not drafting that unless for some reason it fills. But I want to talk about some ADP values. So I did start my rankings a little bit, and the way I'm seeing it is a little different than ADP, which is great. I'm a little lower on some of these running backs. As you can see, Saquon I have at 6. Maybe that'll bump up to 5 or something like that. But the biggest values for me right now, the biggest value for sure is Tyreek Hill. By far the biggest value. Just went out publicly, apologized for everything that happened, and he's still a dog. He can definitely still get the job done. Tua wasn't healthy. There's all kinds of issues. And honestly, there is going to be a whole bunch of issues with this Miami Dolphins just team in general. I started going through last night, and that's another thing that I'm doing right now. It's on my list of a never-ending list of things to do when we're talking about football, but going through every NFL team, going through their depth chart, seeing who's, a free agent, what their needs are essentially. And there's a lot of holes with the Miami Dolphins. They have a lot of free agents. They're weak up the middle in their offensive line, which is where they need to be strong, right? With a quarterback like Tua, not exceptionally mobile. You can't let him get sacked. Obviously, concussions are continuing to be a concern. So they really need to bolster up the middle. Their tackles are okay. But then again, their defense is in shambles. They're really going to have to put some work in and in the draft and then in free agency as well, which they don't have a ton of money. So it's going to be an interesting spot where the Dolphins end up. So this is a team, the Dolphins are going to be a team, I think they're a lot closer with that offense. So it's kind of how I was looking at the Bengals last year, my Bengals. I was very much thinking that the Bengals defense was going to be garbage. And they were. They were obviously one of the worst, if not the worst defense in the NFL. But the offense is fantastic for the Bengals, right? So that's why I was drafting a ton of them. So I'm looking at the Dolphins this coming season the way I looked at the Bengals last season. I think that they're going to score a ton of points. They run and gun. We know the offense. We know how it operates. We know the potential, right? So I'm pretty all in on the Dolphins offense this year. Not that I'm ridiculously high on Tua, but I'll be drafting Tyreek, Waddle, HN, all these guys relatively high. Even, Malik Washington, I think, could be in value, just because I think that their defense is going to be garbage and their offense is more than capable of staying in ball games. So Tyreek Hill is pretty much by far the number one value for me right now. I think he's I have him ranked as a first rounder. He's ADP 22. So I'm going to take as much Tyreek as I possibly can right now. Moving on from there, next highest, I definitely see Breece Hall as a value, 7 picks as we sit right now. I definitely see that offensive line improving, first rounder last year. They still have Elijah Vera Tucker there, Joe Tittman, their center, second round pick, I think, third round, maybe last year. And then Max Mitchell, they need to put in some more work in free agency and the draft as well. But I think Breece Hall could be a value. Jackson Smith and Jigba, definitely very, very high on my radar. It actually came out today publicly, even though I was saying this, I think last week. I said it on a couple shows ago when we were talking about the Seattle Seahawks. They're a little bit in not in cap hell, but they have some work to do as far as the cap is concerned. They converted some of the salary for Leonard Williams, created, I think it was like $6 million in cap space. But they came out today and said publicly that it seems like it's not very likely that Tyler Lockett's going to be on that team. They can save $17 million by cutting him. I fully see that happening. And we'll kind of see where he lands. I think that's a guy that could go to somewhere like the Chiefs. I think that would be a fantastic spot for him to go. But I think that's going to shoot Jackson Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf up the board. I would love it if they had a better quarterback than Geno, but he's also, I've said this before, he's not the best. He's not the worst. You can do a lot better than Geno Smith. But DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, are both values in my opinion. Same thing with Terry McLaurin. Biggest thing with McLaurin, he only had 117 targets last year. Like, that is his lowest potentially in his career, right? But he had his best season. So give him some more targets, which is 1,000,000% on the table, and he should be able to kind of blow these numbers out of the water. Maybe touchdowns, but I think he'll still be fine as far as touchdowns are concerned. If I'm being honest, I don't see too much drop off there. But his receiving yards and potentially catches might see an uptick. So a lot of value. Ashton Genty, I'm a man of my word. Mind you, I did say I wouldn't pick him in the second round. I have him ranked, at the end of the second, 24th pick. So we'll see what happens there. I don't have a single share of him yet. I think he should be going lower. I think that this rookie class is too good that I'm not going to be reaching for a rookie running back where I can get Omarion Hampton, my guy Trevion Henderson, right? Trevion Henderson is by far my highest owned rookie. So we'll see where that lands. These quarterbacks are in a good spot. Bucky Irvin, little bit of I don't think he's worth the ADP quite yet. I do have to put some more work in here, so I haven't gotten super into the rabbit hole. I'm only 32 picks in, so it's still a work in progress, but there's definitely some value there. And then again, with let's look at my exposures. Let's go there. So I'm going to get out of this draft. It's not going to fill, and we're not going to wait for it to. So let's take a look at exposures. I've two bigger boards, one war room so far. I've got a slow of each of those going, and then 11 big boards, and I have a slow there, and then 23 little boards. Obviously, that will fill first, so I want to get that kind of wrapped up and filled up because I will be maxing all of these tournaments and the biggest board as well. I have a slow going there. I'll max that. But let's take a look at the exposures and where I think there's value. So obviously, Audric Estime, I think, is a huge value. I don't know why people are fading him. Honestly, in the 20th, 18th, 19th, 20th round, all we're looking for is a guaranteed roster spot, right? That's really all you can ask for. And for me, Audric Estime is 100% going to be on the Broncos. Javonte Williams is not. And then what? Jaleel McLaughlin, sure, but they play completely different roles. I'm only expecting Estime to be, first, second down bruiser, 5 catches. That's it. 76. This is not very efficient, and I don't like that. But my hope is he takes a step forward. And I'm going back to my comp for Audric Estime when in draft season. I'm going back to my comp, which was Mark Ingram in that offense, in that Sean Payton offense. So I comped him to Mark Ingram before he was drafted there, obviously. And that's what I'm just going to stick with. And I'm going to keep my exposures high this year. I mean, last year I evened it out a bunch more. I wanted to be more flat. This year, I'm not going to be an apologist like that. I'm going to just stick by my takes, take hard stands. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I can deal with that. It's not you know what I mean? It's not my first rodeo. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. But that's a stand that I'm taking as my highest owned player, almost 60% as it sits right now. Tez Johnson, a guy that I like more than pretty much anybody else, obviously. The dude can absolutely separate. Super fast, super skilled, super talented, very experienced. He's on the phone with Cooper Kupp and Tank Dell quite often. So he has the ear of some seriously high-profile professional wide receivers. I like Tez Johnson more than most. So I'm going to be higher than pretty much anybody, I'd imagine. I'm sure I am so far. We'll see where it lands. Savion Williams, again, I'm okay taking that boomer bust. I'm okay taking the risk. And now he's falling, so I can pull back my average ADP on Savion, which I will be doing because I don't want to have it where it's at. I was picking him in the 170s, 180s. Now he's going in the 200s. So if he continues to fall, I'll keep my exposure right around here. Let's take a peek. Ben says, people scared of Genty Henderson, Judkins, Johnson, Neal going to Denver. That's fine. I mean, potentially that could happen. I still think Audric Estime will have a role. It's very possible. I don't think Genty would go there. I just don't think they're going to take that high of a pick there. I think even though they led the league in sacks, I think they need some work, especially on the outside. So I think they need some edge rushers. They need a running mate for Patrick Surtain as a corner. They could use a linebacker. They could bolster that offensive line a little bit. Tight end is a pretty high priority. There's lots of priorities. So yeah, I mean, that could happen, but I'm still going to take Audric Estime. I'm very confident that he's on this roster. Look at last year. Look at the Chicago Bears. We were drafting all 3 of those running backs, right? I mean, maybe you were, maybe you weren't, maybe to different degrees. But all 3 of those running backs were being drafted. So I'm just going to stick by my original take. And again, maybe it's a 0. And even if it is, who cares? It's the early big board. I'm going to take a risk on that. So we'll see. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you could definitely click more Estime. Yeah, I mean, if you like him, you like him. I'm taking a hard stand. I do think this is a little aggressive. I'm not going to be 60% long term. Again, I'm only, I think, what am I, 11 big boards, right? So 11 and yeah, 54%. So either way, I'm not too worried just yet about any of these exposures, really. This is just an initial chat, and we'll kind of take it from there. Trevion Henderson, I think, is a huge value. Kenny Walker is a huge value. There you see JSN. Roma Dunze, I think he's pulling up the board, though. So either people are catching on. Harold Fannin, your guy, Ben, he's a bit of a value right where he's going. Neal, people are catching on with. Martinez, people are catching on about, but all of these guys were values early in the season. Keishon Butte and the Patriots are an interesting one. That's another team going through. I only did probably 2 divisions last night. One was the AFC East. So the Patriots, the Dolphins, which is why I noticed that about the Dolphins, saying, man, they got a lot of holes. So give me that offense because the defense is going to be hot garbage. So with the Patriots, though, again, just a ton of holes, crazy amount of holes. But also they've been drafting wide receivers. So you've been throwing draft capital at this position. Obviously they have a problem with coaching up and, progression with their wide receivers because they're all, not very good realistically. Right. But they got a lot of bodies. They got a lot of bodies in there and they're second, third, fourth rounders. Right. So honestly, for me, try to make that team better around Drake May, especially obviously that offensive line, work on that defensive line. The back end of the defense needs a ton of help, right? So that's where I'm focusing. I probably maybe bring in like a veteran, like maybe a Tyler Lockett, like I just said, who's probably a cut candidate, bring in a good, solid veteran wide receiver that's not going to cost you a ton of money. And then build out the rest of that roster. Like you can find good wide receivers almost every single year in the draft and potentially in free agency. If I'm them, I probably don't spend the money on a T. Higgins. I would just bolster my defense, make that offensive line reasonable. I don't really worry about running back even. Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, maybe you draft a late, 5th, 6th round running back, sure. But focus on that offensive line, focus on that defense, and kind of take it from there and let the chips fall where they may. I'm not worrying about my exposures either. As I'm taking who fits my team. That's just good football. Yeah, just take good players, take the best players, right? And who you see as the best players. Don't worry about what everyone else is talking about. I fell into it for a minute there in my draft cycle so far, but I'm clearing it all out. I'm making my rankings. I'm making my rookie rankings, and that's that. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm ready to live and die by it. Harold Fannin, yeah, I know you got a crazy amount of exposure. And I'll be right around there. I'll be ahead of the field. That's for sure on Harold Fannin. So again, I have him ranked number 3 technically, but he's by far my highest owned rookie tight end. Loveland, wow, that's surprising that it's not Warren. More money on Warren's side, but Colson Loveland's there as well. So I need to bump up my numbers for Warren. He's just pretty expensive, tight end 10, where I think there's value at that position way late in drafts. But let's get into a draft and then we can talk more about it as we go. So let's jump into a big board. Hopefully we're not full. Waiting on 10. Perfect. Tons of room. The water's fine. Come on in. Waiting on 7, waiting on 6. So let's talk more about it as we go. But yeah, Tyreek Hill definitely a high priority for me, and kind of a lot of these Dolphins. It's pretty easy to stack up Tyreek with Waddle. It'd be nice to get some Tyreek with Devon Achane. Jonnu Smith is in there too, and then Tua is just easy to get. When you get them or where you get them in drafts. So Ben says, let's get it. Sounds like he's in there. Farachi, welcome to the chat. Appreciate you coming out. Good luck. It sounds like he's in the draft as well. Waiting on 5. So yeah, it's an interesting time to draft. And it seems like, knock on wood, seems like Underdog figured out the issue. Maybe it was just people, being very unintelligent. And I can't say everyone was auto drafting those Chiefs Philly stacks, but it seems like it's fixed. I haven't had issues since the end of the Super Bowl. I haven't seen any since then. So hopefully it keeps up. I know that there's still, at least 2 or 3 drafts that need to be canceled. But they haven't yet. So we'll see, I guess, I mean, maybe like some of them I'd be okay if they didn't, but one I auto drafted, one that we had on stream the other day. I think it was on Saturday. We streamed it and that happened, and I put it on auto. That has not been canceled yet. So hopefully that does happen, and then I'll get another entry back, but not the end of the world. So you're seeing my rankings up there now. Let's go to the ADP. I probably will draft using ADP pretty much all summer, or all big board season, and then all summer for Best Ball Mania season. But having my ranks there as well. And then you can always switch back and forth. I have to finish out my rankings, so I'm not in a huge hurry to use them just yet. But yeah, we'll see where that lands. So waiting on one, then we'll get rolling. CD Lamb, actually, there you go. There's another huge value. Not as much as Tyreek, in my opinion, but I have CD Lamb ranked, third? Yeah. And oddly, I have Jahmyr Gibbs. Mostly the touches are what my big concern are. All the influencer 1-1. We've got Faraci in there, Ben Haskell. Toast 0420 is, who is that again? That's not Putt Daddy. Who is that? Oh man, definitely Dennis, I think is who that is. Who else do we got? If you're in the chat and I haven't called you out, let me know. I'm over here by myself. You guys are going to be sniping each other 3 straight. That's good. Yeah, definitely Dennis is in there. So you 3 can snipe each other, and I'll be hanging out over here. Definitely Jamar Chase, 0%. So that's how many times I've gotten the 1-1 in the big board so far. So I'm definitely taking Jamar Chase here. No question. Haven't taken any Barkley at all. No Justin Jefferson, which is not by design. I have him ranked right at ADP, so I definitely need to get. I might have to pull him up to 2, 3, 4, and I'll draft him at 4, 5, 6, 7, just to get my exposure. It's 150 entries, so I do want a certain amount of exposure to a certain amount of players. But I will be lighter on Nico most likely. I just think he's going a touch too high. If he falls to me at, say, 11 or definitely at the turn, I'm sure I'll click his name, but I'm not going to be reaching on Nico Collins. Why? Most targets he's had in his career is 109. And yes, it's not because he's not a target hog. Why is it? Why has that been his max target? Because he gets hurt every year. He's been injured pretty much every year of his career so far. So anyone that's like been proven to be injury prone, I pulled down my list because when are they, most likely to be injured? When are they likely to get injured? Probably towards the end of the season, and that's when you need them the most. So, I mean, I'm not saying I won't take Nico Collins. I'm not saying he's a bad pick. I'm just saying I'm going to be lighter on him than most, and those are kind of my reasons why. Ben's taking JJ at 2. Yeah, I've got CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson just because of the quarterback situation. But I agree. The big reason why, and it's not like I wouldn't say I'm. Let's zoom in a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm fading. Yeah, let's do that. I wouldn't say I'm fading the running backs. I am soft kind of fading Saquon. I have him ranked 6th. And then Bijan, I think I have ranked 5th or something like that. I do like Gibbs the most, though. Mostly because of his touches. I'm nervous about Saquon getting the amount of touches he did. That, what is it? Let's take a look. 345 carries, 33 receptions, and that does not include playoffs, obviously. So That's a lot of touches. Look at what happened last time he had that many touches. Then he kind of bounces back, right? So I'm just a little nervous about the amount of touches that he's gotten this year, and then concerned that that could pull back his production next season, especially Super Bowl hangover, new offensive coordinator potentially, right? There's all kinds of potential issues there. So I'm not going to not pick him. I'm just only going to pick him at a price that I deem, that makes sense. Benza ends up getting CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill. That's a phenomenal start for me. One of my favorite starts. I did it a couple weeks ago on a stream. If you can pull that off, get as much as you can. I probably will be going with Terry McLaurin here if he's still available. Breece Hall is a good pick as well for this team. Yeah, definitely like the start. Yeah, that's honestly my favorite start, if I'm being perfectly honest. Pulls up Lamar Jackson, nothing wrong with that. Let's go. Well, let's take them both. Make it easy. Get some exposure. I have 0% of both. Makes sense in this what I'm doing here. If I thought T. Higgins would be on the Bengals, I would go down that road, but I really, really do not. Doesn't matter the order, but let's go Terry McLaurin, Breece Hall. I like that. Yeah, those are my two kind of biggest values right now. I think CeeDee Lamb could very easily be number 2 overall. I have it Jamar Chase, Gibbs, and then CeeDee. You could put CeeDee Lamb ahead of Gibbs, for sure, depending on what happens with ADPs as we go into best ball summer, right? We're going to see these running backs fall back and the wide receivers move up. And if that's the case, then I'll definitely put CeeDee Lamb as my number 2. And then Tyreek, ADP 22, I have him ranked 9th. And I think he could move up from there, right? So, yeah, if you can get CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill at the 7 and 18 pick, that's my favorite start, basically possible. So, Breeze is a nice value right now. I agree. I like that value. I'm really interested to see what happens as far as, unless that's already happened and I'm not, or I'm misremembering who the offensive coordinator is in New York. Let's take a peek. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Oh yeah, Tanner Angstrad. That's right. Passing game coordinator somewhere. I can't remember, but definitely a value. I think he was a passing game coordinator at Detroit or LA. It was either the Rams or Detroit. I can't remember, but that's right. CeeDee Lamb has an overall number 1 flex in his range of outcomes for sure. Absolutely. He could be the number 1 scorer in fantasy this year. I don't think that's that's getting out of pocket in any way. So he could definitely be the number 1 scorer. It's tough for anyone to repeat. Not that I necessarily need Jamar Chase, or anyone needs Jamar Chase to repeat as the number 1, fantasy wide receiver, number 1 scorer sort of thing, to kind of pay off his ADP or pay off his value. But it's pretty hard to repeat as the number 1 fantasy option year over year. But I still think he'll be more than fine. Say it's like Justin Jefferson, similar sort of a situation. Coming into this season, people were down on him, including myself a little bit. I think I was like 2 picks down on him in ADP. I liked Amon-Ra over him, which is pretty close. That was actually really what it was Amon-Ra over. Wasn't even maybe 2 spots, but Amon-Ra over Jefferson. 258, 12 and 12. Yeah, less than 10-point difference in overall points, more yards, less touchdowns. So that's pretty much a wash. So that's kind of what I'm saying is it's like Justin Jefferson, it's like Puka, Amon-Ra. Doesn't really matter where you get them in the first round as long as they pay off their first round value. And yeah, I think Jamar Chase is almost a lock to do that. We'll see what happens with the defense, but we'll take it from there. There's not a lot to like in this range. I will be picking 0 Joe Mixon at this ADP. Rashee Rice, I might touch his name a little bit, but he's got to pull down for me. Zay, I wouldn't mind. I'll get a few shares in the big board for sure. I would like to pair him up with Lamar when I can, but not completely necessary. Like that's quality flex line. Gets over 1,000 yards. You got to think he has a pretty good opportunity to get it over 1,000 yards again. And then again, especially if you can pair him up with Lamar. Odunze for me, great pick, good value. Mahomes is very often falling to 60, 61, 62, where the Xavier Worthy gets him. Xavier Worthy drafter. Potentially the Rashee Rice drafter. We're going to go Joe Mixon here. Or sorry, definitely not going to go Joe Mixon. We're going to go Joe Burrow and then Rome Odunze. I think makes the most sense. Waddle's there, but really I'm just super high on Rome Odunze and I'm behind my own, field in my Rome Odunze shares in the big board. So let's juice that up a little bit. Opens a quarterback door as well for my guy Caleb Williams, who I was ranting and raving about the other week. You can get Mahomes in the 80s. You can on occasion, but if you're like the other day, I was at the 1-2 turn. I can't remember who my first two picks are. Doesn't matter. But at 36, I went with Xavier Worthy, and 37, I went with Rashee Rice. Then when it got back to me at the 60-61 turn, I'm not pushing Mahomes again. If that's the case, I'll take that full round of ADP value at that time. And realistically, he is going to fall for sure. His ADP is going to plummet, but he can't fall too much further than, again, the Worthy and the Rashee Rice drafters ADP. You know what I mean? So I would be shocked if he falls below 60. We'll see where it lands, but that would be very, very shocking. So, but you're not wrong. The odd on occasion, you can get a naked Patrick Mahomes in the 80s, 70s, 80s. And when I do that, which I have done as well, if he's there, I'll take him. Then I'll just bring it back with rookies because their wide receiver core is completely depleted and they don't have a lot of cap space. So with a lot of holes, left tackle, obviously not a lot of holes, but they've got a few, and their biggest hole is probably a wide receiver and potentially tight end. If Kelsey does end up retiring, then we'll kind of see how that goes. This is a little interesting. Hurts, Daniels, Mahomes. You really could never convince me that that's good strategy at all. Even in these early big boards, that's just way too much draft capital. I like Derrick Henry as your kind of anchor RB, but and Nico, I guess you could say that's fine as your anchor wide receiver, but you're going to be way too thin from there. So interesting strategy, not a direction I would go. That's very hit him with the gritty. Apologies if you're watching. I'm not trying to call you out, but that's hit him with the gritty. Was doing that a little bit last year. But yeah, all naked too. Yeah, I mean, you could bring Ertz in with Daniels and Goddard in with Jalen Hurts, I guess, but I think that's pretty terrible. And yeah, I guess take Mixon at a huge value. You might as well full round ADP value, sure. I'm not saying I wouldn't pick Mixon. I just wouldn't pick him at his ADP, which obviously you didn't. So yeah, good value. Can't fault you for that. That's for sure. Jerry Jeudy comes in. Interesting kind of a build. So this is a prime example of why badges don't mean shit, right? Just because someone has a badge could have come from drafting NBA, NHL, MLB, whatever. You get the badge from drafting. You don't get it from drafting certain sports. You don't get it because you draft well. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's badges don't mean anything. I do expect more out of badged drafters, but yeah, it doesn't mean they know what they're doing. Trevion Henderson goes. People are starting to eat into my shares, which breaks my heart, but we'll manage. Wide receivers are a huge value right here. Montgomery makes sense, but I've been getting my shares. I just want to be at the field, and I just want to make sure I'm at the field because I didn't last year, and there was no reason not to. He just went in a weird spot in the draft. So really, like, do I want to take Quinshon Judkins over him? I really don't see why. I would have definitely taken Montgomery there. But that's all right that he's gone. I'm going to have to go Judkins and Jalen McMillan. I was very, very sure that Chris Godwin would not be back with the Bucks. Now I'm not so sure. And that would hurt his value. But the only other pick for me here would be Emeka Ibuka, who I do want more shares of. So maybe I just go down that road. I'm behind my own number, my overall number in the big board, similar with Jalen McMillan. Yeah, if I didn't have Joe Burrow and I wanted more quarterback potential with Baker Mayfield, then I would go with Jalen McMillan. But let's take Emeka Ibuka here. He's my wide receiver 1, and I'm not changing it. I will not change it. I don't care. I don't care if I'm wrong on that. I'm keeping as my number 1 wide receiver. This is the oldest running back room I've started with all draft season. Yeah, I know you like those rookies. Kamara, Joe Mixon. Yeah. Joe Mixon, I think, is going to completely fall off this year. I really have a hard time with him. I think people are starting to realize that he's never been efficient, ever. He's just a volume runner. So give Caleb Johnson, give Quinshon Judkins, give Trevion Henderson 250 carries a year and see what they do, right? Like, Joe Mixon is not efficient, and he never has been. He's just always gotten the volume, and therefore people think he's valuable, which is fair. You know, if volume is key, if you're getting 250 carries a year, I don't really give a shit how efficient you are. You know, you're going to put up some spike weeks. You're going to have some fantasy points. But I've just never liked him for a few reasons. But yeah, me too. I've never been a fan of Joe Mixon. I liked him as a rookie when the Bengals drafted him. I was really excited to get him, actually, even though he's a piece of shit of a human being. But I was excited for them to draft him just because of the football, you know, just because of the tape. And then he just never got there, in my opinion. He just never got there. And he's always been the same player, and he's never been efficient. So yeah, I'm extremely out on Joe Mixon. I would probably take him where you got him, Ben. I mean, 55 or later. Actually, I would be taking Kenny Walker ahead of him for sure. What's the difference, realistically? What's the difference between Joe Mixon and David Montgomery? Right? What's the difference, really? A few more catches for Joe Mixon, for sure. And David Montgomery isn't even the starter in his offense. So I think he needs to fall probably even farther than 55. Like, Kenny Walker, for sure. I'm not so high on Chuba Hubbard at this ADP. I was super, super high on him last year. But at this ADP, I'm a little more leery. And all of these rookies, Alvin Kamara, I would take over Mixon for sure. Yeah, I really, really dislike that value or that ADP that he's at. So we'll see where he lands. Yeah, too many incidents to even mention. 100%. I was happy when the Bengals got rid of him, and everyone was shitting on the Bengals for just getting rid of him or dumping him. Essentially, I think it was what, a 6th-round pick or something like that. That's perfect value considering what a horrible human being he is. Like, and yeah, I think he got busted with like a gun or shooting guns or something like that at somebody like the day before the Super Bowl. It's ridiculous. I really just don't like him as a human being. That's a potentially a flaw for me, because you shouldn't really, like, I always say it, don't worry about it. It's not like you're invested in them personally. Um it's just, I don't like him. Tyler Warren goes. I might have went down that road, but I don't have a share of Jonnu yet, and it does make sense. It does actually make sense to get a tight end here, and it won't be Kelsey until I get some clarity. And even then, I think he should fall. So let's get Jonnu, and then I'm going to bring in Caleb. And that's going to finish out my quarterback room. So Putt Daddy, we were talking about this a few times, where we can get those 2 quarterback rooms. That's one example where I'm done. You take 2 quarterbacks inside the top 100 picks, I will not be picking another quarterback on this team. I don't even care what happens value-wise, so let's get rid of it. And then my door is still open. I can double stack, hopefully Cincinnati and Chicago. And now I can catch up. Not that I'm behind, but I can catch up at running back. Yeah, I'm liking the way this draft is going. Yeah, this one, there's just all kinds of nonsense. 5 touchdowns, yeah, that's always fun. Heavier exposed to K9 instead of full fading mix. And yeah, I'm going to be very high on Kenny Walker. Supplied his brother ammo. Yeah, that was messed up. That was after there's like 4 incidents in a row. Yeah, there you go. That was it. That was the one right before the Super Bowl, where he had this road rage incident, like literally the day before the Super Bowl game, or sorry, I think it was actually the AFC Championship. I think it was the day before the AFC Championship. And it's just like, what are you doing, man? Did you not learn your lesson when you were in college? It's depressing to see, but I don't know. Joe Mixon's we're done with Joe Mixon talk. I think you drafted Dak and Tua the other day and took another quarterback, but I think I'm stopping drafting now and have Lamb and those double stack Tyreek Waddle. Yeah, that's fair. It depends on what it is, but I think it was either Richardson or Fields. I think in that example, I think I had a double stack Cowboys, like you said. Lamb and a double stack of Tyreek and Waddle. Perfect. Tua and Dak, sure. And then you can bring in Ferguson if you want. I've done that, but I also like to bring in that late round with the 20 rounds. If this was Best Ball Mania season, if this is 18 rounds, I would not be picking a third quarterback there either. But in these early drafts, especially again, Dak and Tua, we talked about this too. For me, Dak and Tua, they've been injured a bunch, a little bit fragile potentially. I'm bringing in a rushing quarterback option, Justin Fields, Pittman, even like a Darnold late. You could pick your poison there. But yeah, to each their own. Take 2, take 3, do whatever you want to do. I'm not saying you're wrong for drafting Dak and Tua, that's for sure, and stopping there. Definitely not saying you're wrong for it at all. I just personally would rather have a third. And again, most likely a naked rushing quarterback. Justin Fields is the perfect example there. Dan Mix is one of my favorite values right now. I mean, hey, I'm leaving. I'll always leave the door open that I'm completely wrong. I'll always leave that door open. But he's just been extremely inefficient for his entire career. And no one seems to notice or care for some reason. For some reason, he gets a pass for being the most inefficient rusher ever. So, yeah, I would stop at 2 in BBM, but I like to get the third as late as I can get them too. So again, it's typically going to be maybe Richardson, but most likely Justin Fields, who's flying up the board now. Where is he? There we go. 159. I think that's about right. I still think there's some value there too, by the way. Kelsey is absolutely plummeting, which he probably should be. Nothing wrong with that. Definitely not taking a quarterback. Need to catch up a little bit at running back. I'm way behind on my Devin Neal, so I will be taking him. I'm going to get some more Travis Hunter in my life, hoping and thinking that he decides to play wide receiver pretty much exclusively. As I said, whenever I talked about it a week or two ago or a few episodes ago, the transition to the NFL level is going to be much easier for him to do as a wide receiver than as a corner, in my opinion, mostly due to size. And I think if we're calling him just a wide receiver, I would probably have him as my number 2 wide receiver behind Emeka Egbuka, which is potentially unfair to do because I really didn't like what I saw out of Shedeur Sanders when I watched Travis Hunter tape. So maybe he deserves to be higher, but either way, I'm going to get a little more exposure to him and hope that he says I'm a wide receiver first, or the team just tells him that. One of the two. Either he comes out and says it himself, at the advising of the team, or that's just what he wants to do. I don't really care how it happens, but that's what I want to happen. And that's what I think he should do. If I'm being honest, I think that that's in his best interest. I really think that. I just think it'll be a much easier transition, and I think he'll be more effective. Yes, he can still play on defense. Again, like I talked about it when we first talked about it a couple episodes ago, a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, quarters, that sort of coverages, zone coverages, especially quarters, get him on the field. Sure. Absolutely. You want to have him in there in the red zone or something like that on defense. I'm talking in the red zone. Okay, sure. Any kind of Hail Mary situation, 100%. But, I would have him focus on playing wide receiver, and then we'll get you out there on defense, as we can, kind of thing. But we'll see where it lands. That's what I think kind of should happen. But Darkside Dev says, I don't know, I felt like having 3 quarterbacks in the playoffs just gives you an edge. Yeah, in these early big boards, it's pretty tough for me, again, unless I have to take 2 quarterbacks inside the top 100 in order for me to kind of validate taking only 2. So it can give you an edge as long as the capital is correct. Like you don't want to, have it at the detriment for the rest of your team. So look at this guy who drafted Hurts, Daniels, Mahomes. To me, that's extreme overkill. I'm all right with Hurts and Daniels. If you stop there, I'm all right with that. But picking Mahomes there is then going to make you light somewhere else, which it's obviously wide receiver. He's got Nico Collins, Jerry Jeudy, and now Rashad Bateman, and that's it so far. He's going to be extremely thin at wide receiver. We'll take a look at this team at the end of it, but that's not a spot where you want to be that thin at, wide receivers. So we'll see where he ends or lands. RB so easy to push sometimes. I take my first RB in round 13. It is pretty easy. I think there's tons of value. There's some, again, Audric Estime, a guy like Antonio Gibson. There's some quality veterans you can take, like round 18, 19, 20, and then a bunch of rookies at the end of the draft as well. So I think it's a viable strategy to have a couple quality. I'd rather have one anchor in there, like a Derrick Henry, Barkley, whatever, one anchor in there ahead of 13th round. But I don't mind filling out my my running back room from there. Even this could be something like that. We'll see where it lands. I'm sure I'll have more veteran running backs than just Breece Hall, unless it falls into my face, into my lap, which I doubt. So we'll see. We will see. Let's get rid of quarterbacks because I will not be taking a third. And that'll give me some flexibility elsewhere. This guy's sniped me twice now. I wanted Montgomery at a nice value, and I would have taken Quentin Johnston there, but c'est la vie. So running back is definitely a value here. Let's go with Rachaad White. And let's take Ollie Gordon, who I quite like. That gives me the door is possibly open to stop at 5 here. If not, it'll probably be my last pick of the draft. 19th, 20th round for my final running back. We'll see where it lands, but that is most likely going to be it. We'll see. Yeah, I don't, unless someone falls into my lap, I think I'll be done until the very end of the draft at running back. Now I have to kind of catch up at wide receiver, although I think I'm good, right? If I have my 1 and 2 rookie, which potentially that's how it could land, I have my number 1, potentially my number 2. The number 1 wide receiver in fantasy last year, Terry McLaurin, can take a step forward. So I like where I'm at. Travis Hunter is just a great pick. Yeah, potentially. I'm a little worried about how much he plays on defense. We're not going to know until week 1 for sure. But I am going to get a little more. I am going to want a little more information. Darkside Dev, and even then we won't know shit 100%. We won't know until essentially week at least 4 or 6, 4 to 6, something like that. What he's going to do, how much he's going to play on both sides of the ball or on either side of the ball. But I do want to get some more shares, especially in other tournaments. I actually have a decent amount. I have, after this pick, I think I'll have like 12% Travis Hunter. I'd like to bump that up to 18, but we'll see where that kind of lands. Remember when we all thought Andrew was dead after the opening game? Yeah, for sure. I think Andrew's still washed. He's just starting getting TDs. He's not the same player, in my opinion. We'll see. I'm not ready to be hard and firm. I'm pretty much. I do like where he goes. The area that he goes in the draft. There's a lot of just weakness in my opinion. I would always be taking him with Lamar Jackson, almost for sure, because it's tough to get Zay Flowers at a value that feels comfortable when you get Lamar. So I just bring it back with Andrews. You could just wait and get likely. You could take Lamar Jackson naked, for God's sakes. Like that's completely fine. So yeah, I mean, I'm not hard and firm yet. Rashad's such a nice click. I wonder if people realize he's the handcuff to the smallest running back in the league. Yeah, he's only like 5'9", 200, and he runs like he's bigger than that. We're talking about Bucky Irving here. So, yeah, I like Bucky, but he's small. Yeah, I think he's 5'9", 202, not even. I don't even know if he's 200 pounds, 5'9", 190, something like that. And he runs a lot bigger than that. So we'll see. I don't mind the click either. I'm picking off more shares. Maybe not. I'm talking about Travis Hunter here. We won't know until week 17. Hard to say. Yeah, 195, something like that for Bucky. He's 5'9", about 190 something for sure. He's not huge, and he didn't run exceptionally fast at the combine, which is why he fell so far. But the dude can play. He can ball for sure. Obviously, we saw that this year, so he can definitely ball. But yeah, and conversely, Rachaad White is pretty big back, pretty big guy. You can catch a ton of balls, not super efficient as a runner, which is kind of odd. And that's where Bucky excels in this offense. But Rashad's still going to get, he's still going to get his catches. He's still going to do his thing. So they're definitely not going to replace him. There's pretty much no risk as far as him falling off or being replaced or anything like that. Let's go Cole Kmet for sure. Wrap up our double stack for the Bears. And then it's probably got to be Jalen Coker. Yeah, I think that kind of has to be. Yoshi Voss would be on my list, but I don't think I'll go down that road. So let's go Jalen Coker and Cole Kmet. Yeah. It sounds like Thielen is coming back, but I mean, I still think that the lion's share of the looks, the targets are going to be going to Liggett and Coker. Coker was hyper efficient, but again, that's on very limited targets, very limited catches. But we'll see. We need to see it. I'm willing to take the gamble on a 17-game schedule, and I've always been, since the Seattle Seahawks days, I've always been a massive believer and fan of and now his name is escaping me. How is his name escaping me here? Of the head coach, former offensive coordinator of the Bucks. Dave Canales. There we go. I've always been a huge fan and believer of Dave Canales. So give me players in his offense. Hence why I was so high, especially running backs, but especially why I was so high on Chuba Hubbard last year. But give me players. Look at the receivers last year for the Bucks. Sorry, 2 years ago for the Bucks, and then that's where I'm hoping it lands. They need to invest in the offensive line a little bit, which I think they will. They got tons of money. Seems like they have their quarterback now. Hopefully Bryce Young takes another step forward. So I'm a buyer of pass catchers for the Panthers. Absolutely, I'm a buyer. Liggett, Coker, Jatavian Sanders. That's pretty much it, though. That's as far as I'll go. We'll see what they do in the draft, but I don't think wide receiver will be a high priority for them. Maybe running back. We'll see. I was picking 0 Jonathan Brooks last year. I might have had 3 total shares out of 500 drafts, something like that. I just was not picking him whatsoever with the injury, new to the team, new to the NFL, wasn't happening. And then that worked out in my favor. So Jack Besh, that is an absolute value for me right now. Good pick. I'm fine with taking him way ahead of his ADP. I think he's going to skyrocket. I really do. If he runs a sub 4.5, if he goes out there at the combine, measures in 6'1", 210, runs a 4.45, right? He's going to skyrocket up draft boards. I finally got around to watching tape on Jack Besh. The dude outpaced Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and Trey Palmer as a true freshman at LSU. Obviously, they took a step forward and he took a step back in their sophomore campaigns, but he outpaced all 3 of those as a true freshman at LSU. So he was obviously recruited to LSU as well. Wide receiver U, right? Transfers over to TCU after those guys kind of take off. Jaden Daniels comes in. He takes a step back kind of thing, transfers out. But, man, he looks good, and he's put together, man. 6'1", 210 probably, 215 maybe. He's a big kid, just jacked, and he's got speed, and he can run routes. I loved his tape. I might have him probably – not even might. I'll have him in my top 5 wide receivers. I really will. I like Jack Besh a lot. Man, he looked good. He can run any route you could ask for him. His high school production was through the roof. Love me some Jack Besh right now. I'm taking as much as I can get. Let's see. Definitely taking one more tight end for sure. Isaac Rendo makes some sense here. Yeah, let's go down that road. I'm a little high on my exposure, but I was around this time last year on him as well. I was way too high, pulled it back, ended up kind of working out. I kind of wish I kept drafting him. But let's go Garendo and Mike Gesicki. Wrap up my double stack Bengals, double stack Bears like that. I'm done at running back. And I'm done everywhere except for wide receiver. So there we go. We'll wrap it up with 3 wide receivers and then call that a squad. And then we'll do a quick look through the teams. Got sniped on Fannin. Was able to snag your boy Fannin just now. Yeah. Yeah, he's quality. He's definitely quality. It's a very good tight end class. I think I've watched 7 I've ranked 7. And I did, those are all the 7 that I watched. I don't think anyone that I haven't seen, I don't think will end up in my top 7 sort of thing. But we'll be taking a look at my spreadsheet in maybe a week or so. I'm not sure. I might massage that a little bit. I might have to move Elijah Arroyo up, but I don't think Jake Stool from Clemson, Molokai Matavo, Aronde Gadsden, I don't think they will crack my top 7, but they will be in my top 10, I would imagine. So it's a stacked tight end year. We just see Mason Taylor go off the board. It's a stacked tight end year. We'll just see where landing spots happen. There's a lot of I really, really liked Cade Otton when he was a rookie in Washington. I had him as my number 2 behind Trey McBride, obviously. And those 2 were pretty correct as far as the rankings are concerned. I'd rather not take Savion Williams, if I'm being honest, but I will take him if I kind of have to. Jalen Noel, I'm even getting there with my exposure. I don't really need to take too much more. And then who's my last guy? Ricky White is my last rookie wide receiver that I take around here. Again, my exposure is getting pretty healthy. But then who else do you take? Like who? Diami Brown may or may not be back with the Commanders. He didn't really do too much in the regular season, but he had a good playoff run. And this is, 4 seasons in. Like his rookie contract is done. That's concerning that he hasn't really gotten there, right? So Michael Wilson, I think it's very possible that he could be kind of replaced in this draft. We'll see. Nuke Hopkins said he's coming back. Where is he going to go? Does he just take a huge discount to stay with Kansas City? Maybe. Hard to say. Butte, my exposure is fine. Tolbert, I think he gets replaced one way or another, whether it's through a trade, free agency, or the draft. I think he's going to have a hard time even replicating what he did last year, which was fine with where he's being drafted. And if you draft him this year thinking he's going to do something similar, that's perfectly fine as well. I just am not so sure. People are drafting Gabe Davis. I'm not. I'm just not doing it. Will Disley sighting. Pair him up with Justin Herbert. Disley might be a free agent. I'll have to look into that. I'm just going to take Nuke Hopkins. Massive amount. Like you give me Nuke Hopkins in the 18th round, I'll click his name. Especially like it's not off the table that he just takes an extreme discount to stay in Kansas City. Not that that's going to work out well for him because look at he did catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So there's that. Let's take Nuke Hopkins and then people are linking Westbrook Akine to the Chiefs just kind of because. A guy that I think the Chiefs could go after is Darius Slayton. I think he would fit very well with that team and that offense. He is a free agent. Let's get some Darius Slayton in our lives. That's my first share, and I'd like to get a little bit, be at the 8% field. Maybe 8% is a little higher than the field considering where he goes. But I'd like to be roughly 10% Slayton. Get some shares there. Tight end is stacked this year, 100%. You know how often there's a team that we think stinks that really outperforms, like Geno's first year in Seattle and Baker's first in Tampa Bay. Who do you think is the most likely team this year? Miami. So I was all over the Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay. I love Dave Canales. Dave Canales is a fucking genius, in my opinion. I love Dave Canales as a play caller, as a coach, as a leader, everything. Big Dave Canales guy. And I have receipts. Go on my channel and look at some of the who's this year's this guy or the other. Those videos that I have, that's like the last time I actually just made videos. But it's all about the Bucks. It's pretty much all about the Bucks in Dave Canales' first year. And I talked extensively about Dave Canales and how much I like him. So I called that Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay, had tons of exposure. For me, it's Miami. Who do I late? You're saying? Okay, a team we're really down on collectively. I would say that is Miami, but so you may be right. They may be way underrated. Yeah, I mean, a lot of Malik Washington there. I need to get more Malik Washington. That's for sure. But I think Miami is that team right now. Other than that, other than Miami, I'll have to do some more digging. Like I said, I'm going through all of the rosters right now and finding needs, things like that. That's where I build out my draft needs. Realistically, it typically always starts, obviously with the quarterback, and then the offensive coordinator, the head coach. Those are all things that I look at first and foremost, and then the supporting cast. Another team I would say then would be the Atlanta Falcons. Like you can't just get everybody cheap, right? There's got to be some expensive pieces. So then the Atlanta Falcons are definitely on the radar for me in that type of vein. Yeah, I liked what Penix did with Drake London. I don't think Kyle Pitts goes anywhere. Like, yeah, he's on the trading block. Wonderful. If you can get a first round pick, fuck yeah, you're going to take a first round pick for Kyle Pitts, right? Who's going to offer that to them? I don't really think anybody would. So, yeah, you can go ahead and say that he's a first round pick, or sorry, that he's a trade candidate or whatever, but that really doesn't mean much if I'm being honest with you. You can say anybody's on the trade block for the right price, which is very true, right? What's the news on Thornton here? Futures deal. That's a guy that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. That's a guy I'm going to have my eyes on is Tyquan Thornton. So we'll see where that goes. We'll see where that lands. I'm going to assume Ricky White went somewhere. Yeah, right there. Jalen Knoll. Okay. Then I do want to get a couple shares of Parker Washington. So I might go there. Let's take Parker Washington. At least I think I got Parker Washington. So let's zoom out. Let's go check out the teams. Did I get Parker Washington? It's not pulling up. What's going on? Okay, we're going to have to refresh the page. There we go. Okay, let's jump in the draft. I did get Parker Washington. Cool. Let's check the chat first. I keep falling in the waddle hole and he keeps throwing dirt on me. Fair enough. He's not a second round pick anymore. So we'll see. But, the Dolphins are pretty high up there for me for that team. The Falcons right now are pretty high up there. If the Carolina Panthers had a better quarterback, I've never been a Bryce Hall guy personally. I thought Stroud was by far the number one quarterback in that draft, which it worked, looks like it's true. I do really like the Denver Broncos. It's just weird to get the pieces outside of, I suppose, Cortland Sutton. I love me some Bo Nix. But the other pieces are kind of weird unless you luck out to one of the tight ends going there, which, I've been drafting, along those lines. The San Francisco 49ers are definitely on that list. The Jacksonville Jaguars might be, by the end of this, they might be at the top of that list, actually. So that's another one for sure. The Chicago Bears, very high on that list. Like, I don't have a one team quite yet. Last year, it was the Bengals and the Commanders were those two teams that I was just drafting an obscene amount of. And it really did work out. I just didn't, make the finals anywhere. So that's the depressing part about it. But how many we drafting this year? Are you talking about tonight? Maybe we'll do another one. We'll see. We got 16 people watching. How many likes we got? Give me, if we got 10 likes, we'll do another one. And I'll go like it myself right now. So that gives us an extra one. Let's get in there. We're at how many likes? 8 likes. Okay, 2 more likes and we'll do another one. We're at 11. All right, we'll do another draft. Appreciate that, guys. They'd be lucky to get a 2025 third for Pitts, 100%. Yeah, like that's why he's not going anywhere, in my opinion. I think Pitts is going to be on the Falcons. They want to be a playoff team. It makes sense. Like, go ahead and put him on the block, but no one's going to give you what you want for him, I don't think. Definitely Dennis says, thought Marshawn Lloyd would make it back to me. I just should have reached on him. Yeah, it's not a reach at that point, really. If it's a 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, whatever, who gives a shit? Just pick your guys and make your stacks. Do what you got to do. It really doesn't matter. There is no reaches at that point. Bryce Young, what are you just making fun of my stutter or what? Snipe me on Royals. Good drafting next to you. Yeah, there's always going to be snipes, but let's take a look at the teams drafted and then we'll rip another quick one. Since we're on mine, Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams, double stacked them both. I like that. I like the capital. I'm happy with that room. Happy I stopped at 2. Really, makes other things possible. Breece Hall, Quinshawn Judkins, Devin Neal, Rashad White, Ollie Gordon, Isaac Guerrero. I like this room quite a lot. Nice ADP value on Isaac Guerrero. No real reaches. I guess you could say Ollie Gordon, but I think there's still room there for him. But that's a good room, in my opinion. I like the running back room. Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Roman Dunze, Emeka Ibuka, Travis Hunter, Jalen Coker, DeAndre Hopkins, Darius Slayton, Parker Washington. I like that. I guess I could have gotten some more rookies at the end, but all of the rookie value is kind of getting gobbled up right now. Even though Jalen Noel and Ricky White, I think, can be guys, but I'm highly exposed already, and I will continue to be. But this is, I think, a fantastic room. Huge amount of value on DeAndre Hopkins, over 35 picks in ADP value. I'll take that. Full round on Jalen Coker. I'll take that. A full round on I reached a little bit, sorry, on Ibuka, but that's fine. I'm happy with that room. Happy with the capital. Dangerous squad. Jonnu Smith, Cole Kmet, and Mike Gesicki. Gesicki and Kmet pair up with my quarterbacks. Jonnu Smith, I like. Again, Miami, I think, could definitely be one of those teams that are a little under the radar this year. Yeah, I'm happy with this team. Very happy with this team. Let's take a look at Faraci. We'll go in order here. Michael Penix, Anthony Richardson, little thin. I'm sure you are aware. Definitely a little thin. Doesn't mean it can't work. But I would love, an established veteran in there. Like, it'd be nice if you can get like a Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, just a steady Eddie quarterback in there to kind of fill out the room. But it is what it is. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. Bucky Irving, Trevion Henderson, Aaron Jones, I'm not a huge believer of. He's a free agent, probably comes back to Minnesota. But I'm a little lower on the Minnesota Vikings this year than most. I'm just not a big JJ McCarthy guy. Doesn't mean he's not a good pick. Doesn't mean he can't work. Ray Davis, Marshawn Lloyd, Antonio Gibson, Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson probably will not be on the Bills next year. Maybe he is, but I don't think it makes sense for them to bring him back. You kind of want to get younger at the position. Not that they're old. I guess they got Ray Davis and James Cook, but it's a gamble picking Ty Johnson, I think, right now as a free agent. But don't hate the room. You threw some volume at it with 7. I don't hate the room. I like Gibson. I like Lloyd, actually. I'm starting to pick up some more shares there. 3rd round pick, highly productive, big guy, 6 foot, 220, ran a 4.4. I like Marshawn Lloyd. Ray Davis, I'm a fan of. Trevion, y'all know, my guy, and Bucky, he can definitely get the job done too. So good value on Bucky as well. That's kind of where, if you're going to pick him, I'm all right with that. Puka Nacua, Drake London, love it. Ted McMillan is not for me. Luther Burden, not particularly for me. Darnell Mooney with Drake London with your Penix. I like that. Stephon Diggs, free agent coming off an ACL. I'm not a big Stephon Diggs guy. Got a little bit of value on him, so that's all right. Wandale, I like. I don't mind the quote fingers reach. Catch 100 balls. You do what he did last year. I don't mind that at all. Tez Johnson, he's one of my guys. I like the Elijah Moore click. Interesting room, a little different, but I as a whole, I definitely like it. It's definitely quality. Yeah. And then Kyle Pitts with the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, there you go. So Atlanta Falcons, that's a team that I think if it smashes, like I think it definitely can. This is going to be a good squad just by having that Atlanta stack, right? So I don't hate this. George Kittle there is an anchor as well, and then Pitts, good capital there, makes sense. I like this team. It's definitely different than how I would draft, but I don't hate it. Obviously, you're only concerned about your quarterbacks, really. That's your only real concern, and I don't think I'm telling you something you don't know. So there you go. Ben, let's take a look at Ben Haskell's team. Tua, Cam Ward, Derek Carr. That's fine. That's fine. Cam Ward's pretty much the only rookie quarterback I'll be picking if or when I do. I like Tua, the Dolphins. That's, we just talked about it a second ago. I'm a little worried about Derek Carr. If I'm being honest, I'd probably rather Russell Wilson. I'd probably rather Russell Wilson at the end of drafts than Derek Carr, but pick your poison, whatever. Saw a tweet today. Derek Carr got smashed in a bowl game in college against Kellen Moore, who's his new coach. So that's kind of funny. Kellen Moore grossly outplayed Derek Carr in that game. But either way, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Ramondre Stevenson, Braylon Allen, Brashard Smith, Khalil Mullins. Khalil Mullins is not for me personally. I just think he's too much of a, 2 yards, not even 3 in a cloud of dust sort of thing. Brashard Smith is really interesting. He very well could be the best receiving back in this entire class. Built like a wide receiver, catches the ball like a wide receiver. I like him. I like Braylon Allen. I think there's decent value there at the ADP for Ramondre. I like Kamara. Joe Mixon I hate, but you got value on him. Value on Kamara just fell into your lap. So I don't hate that. Don't hate the room. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Calvin Ridley, Rashid Shaheed, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Higgins. I like this a lot. That's obviously your strength. Your first however many picks probably went there. Yeah, straight wide receivers, four straight wide receivers, then Mixon, Kamara back to the wide receiver room. That's your strength for sure. And then huge amount of value on Kelsey. Can't blame you for clicking his name there. 120. Good, a full round of value on TJ Hawkinson as well. Yeah, can't do wrong with those tight ends. Like the wide receivers. Should be all right. I mean, you're worried about injury with like Mixon and Kamara, potentially Stevenson. Like there's always risk everywhere, but I don't mind any of this team really. New Orleans stacks, Miami stacks. I might have stolen Jonnu Smith on you, but don't hate the squad. And then definitely Dennis right here. Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Jackson Dart. Last pick of the draft. I'm all right with it. I'm not picking him too much, or maybe not at all, but I can't blame you on that one. With Goff and Love too, sure, why not? This is a borderline stop at 2. So this is very borderline. Yeah, pick 89 and 104. Very borderline that I would, if I'm stacked up, double stacked, let's say Laporta and Amon-Ra or Jameson, right? And then Kraft and Wicks or Jaden Reed or something like that, that would make me more likely to just stop at the 2 quarterbacks. But I don't mind picking Dart there too. That's fine. Chase Brown, Kenny Walker, Trey Benson, Blake Coleman, Roschon Johnson, Audric Estime. I like this a lot. I'm not a big Corum guy or Roschon Johnson, but I can't blame you for it. Chase, you got value. I like that. Kenny Walker is one of my guys. I think there's tons of value in Trey Benson. And then same with Audric Estime. I'm very, very high on. So I don't mind this room as a whole. No rookies. That's fine. Not a big deal. Did you go double stack? No, single stack. Double stack Green Bay. I like it. And then single stack Amon-Ra. Yeah, I mean, if you had Laporta here as well, that would be cool, but that's fine. It's fine that you don't. Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. I don't mind that. That's especially if we get a Detroit, Philadelphia week 17 or something like that, or Green Bay, Philadelphia week 17. That'd be kind of fun. Jaden Reed, Jacoby Myers, Hollywood Brown, Jalen Royals, Jalen Noel. There you go. I like that room a lot. That's super strong. Very, very strong wide receiver room. Tucker Kraft, Dallas Goedert, Jatavian Sanders. Did you get sniped on Hurts? No. I'm not sure I would have brought in Goddard as well. Tons of value, I suppose. So, yeah, that's good. But I don't mind doing A.J. Brown and Smith unstacked. That's perfectly fine. But I don't know if I would have went with Goddard. Not that it matters with your tight ends. It's not a big deal. But I probably would have gone elsewhere at tight end there. Again, tons of value. So scoop it up. But I really like this wide receiver room. If anything, I'm not a big Hollywood guy. But again, 22 picks worth of value. I could easily be talked into that. So I like this team quite a bit, actually. Well done. This might be my favorite team. Well done. Even more than mine. Yeah, probably even more than mine. Nice draft. Let's catch up on the chat. Actually, let's jump into another one, then we'll catch up on the chat. Hopefully, if you guys want to draft again, you can get in there. Let's do another big board. Wait on 9. Perfect. Tons of space. Let's catch up on the chat here. I said Bryce Hall, Bryce Hall. Yeah, Bryce Hall, Brees Hall, Bryce Young, Brees Young. It's confusing. I think we got a few likes and maybe a few subs. Hopefully some subs. Appreciate that, guys. If you're new to the channel, if you like the content, I appreciate it. If you're lurking on the Twitter machine, jump over to YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button, do all this stuff, notification bell. We've been pretty hot and heavy on the big board, which will continue. Hopefully, once every few days, I'll be doing a stream, drafting 1 or 2 times a night. Depends on how much other chatter we have going on. But yeah, appreciate that. I was waiting on Stafford Tried to get some Stafford action. That's fair. That's fair to match up with, I think, Puka you had there. Would have loved to see Algier on that team. Yeah, that's a quality handcuff. Very quality handcuff. You guys been drafting, yeah. Likes the squad. Correlation wide, yeah, that's fair. That's fair with Kamara too, Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, sure. Khalil, yeah, 5.1. I mean, limited amount of carries, right? You're sharing the backfield. I'm not a big Khalil Mullings guy personally, or Donovan Edwards for that matter. So Ridley's potential with Cam Ward, yeah, definitely. I think they should go down that road. Probably. It sounds like they might not, but I think they probably should. The Titans just draft Cam Ward, but we'll see what they end up doing. Lolsimo, what's happening? Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you. Yeah, this is always tough. You gotta figure out who's who, and what everybody's names are. Farachi, yeah, we're in there. I see you in there. You're the three. You guys are gonna snipe each other again. Ben and Farachi side by side. Fossil, thanks for coming out. First time I think I've seen you in the chat. You're a new subscriber last couple days ago or something like that. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming out. Welcome to the draft room. Hopefully we don't snipe each other. Lolsimo we got in there. Nice. Bunch of drafters. No one else that I recognize. Ben Haskell goes Justin Jefferson at the 2. Nothing wrong with that. Sitting in the 9 spot. We'll see. We'll see how this one goes. Gonna eat. Perfect. All good. Eat with the fam while you're drafting. Wow, Gibbs fell to the 7. That's nice value. That's some really nice value there. I have him ranked number 2 right now. 2 or 3, you could say. Let's go back to the ADP. Got to be a Amon-Ra. I'm lower as far as my exposure, so let's get some Amon-Ra in our lives. I like that. No friendly fire. Fingers crossed on that for you guys. Make it known what you're doing as far as your drafting is concerned. Just be obvious, and then hopefully you can stay out of each other's way. But it's hard to when you know there's value and everybody likes to scoop up the value, right? Definitely Dennis, just gonna watch. Oh, you changed your name? I like it. That's smart. Now everyone will know who you are, though. It's better to lurk. Yeah. The name change. It's better to lurk and then no one knows who you are. But yeah, I prefer. I have obviously my name is the same as my Twitter, same as that's the brand, right? Off the Schneid brand. Don't mind Devon Achane here. But I really wouldn't mind Achane. Let's go Tyreek. Let's go Tyreek. That's who I want to get exposure to before he shoots up the board. Achane's going to stay there. Realistically, Achane's going to stay at the 1-2 turn-ish, right? And Tyreek is going to shoot all the way up there at some point. I'm just completely convinced that he will. So I can get my exposure. There's definitely some falling value. Derrick Henry, some falling value. Achane, falling value. I don't mind this start. I've done that myself. Malik Neighbors, Drake London. Don't mind that. Bringing up Drake London. So, yeah, we'll see where this ends up. But I don't think I have Tyreek with Amon-Ra. I definitely have Amon-Ra with Devon Achane. So, yeah, and then you might not be able to get this combo later. So again, we were talking about the CD Tyreek Hill, might not be able to get that combo, right? Puka, Tyreek, Nico Tyreek, Amon-Ra Tyreek, right? You might not be able to get those combinations in not that long, right? He's definitely shooting up the draft board. He's going to be a 1-2 turn guy in no time. And I mean, it depends on how many drafts you are deep. I saw one guy, I can't remember. I mean, his Twitter handle is certified ball knower or something like that. Seems to be a pretty good drafter, actually, but he's maxed out both the big board and the little board already, which is a little wild. That's honestly a little silly. That's not a good use of your own draft capital, in my opinion. I would definitely wait until the combine, free agency. There's so many things, so much can change. So why would you just burn everything that early? It's just doesn't make sense to me personally. But I mean, if you're doing stuff like that where you're getting a ton of value with Tyreek, I guess you can make it work. I don't know, but that's just what I'm doing right now. That's why I'm bringing up Tyreek kind of wherever I can. I want him matched up with pretty much all of these first rounders while you can get it. You know, you can't even get him with Jamar Chase anymore. So I don't know if I have that combo, which I'll have to look, but that would be a nice combo for sure. Justin Jefferson, right? Saquon, all these guys. And then eventually when he's a first round pick, it's just not going to be possible anymore. So we'll see where it lands. Name change. I was going to change to 3Pete, but that went down the crapper quickly. Not even sure. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Putt Daddy. Change your name to 3Pete or what? All right, who are we going with here? Let's go with, let's get some Jalen in our lives. Let's go with some Jalen Hurts in our lives. I think I'll be behind the field on Jalen Hurts, but I don't want to be zero. That's for sure. So I need to force some exposure. Right at ADP is fine. I'd like to get him, past after ADP, right? But that's fine. I need to force a little bit in there. That's something I want to improve on this year. So Mike Evans is a guy that I need to force into lineups. Just close my eyes and click the button, click his name. I have to force him in there. Yeah, even DJ Moore right now, I need to force into some lineups. We'll take Devontae with Jalen Hurts here. Get some correlation there, stack them up. Yeah, that makes some sense. But that's something I need to focus on getting better at this draft cycle, is forcing the guys in my lineup that I know I need more exposure to, but I'm not getting it. So last year, those two guys for sure were Mike Evans and David Montgomery. Were definitely the two that there was no reason for me not to pick them. I liked them as players. I liked their situation. I liked everything about them, but they were going in odd places in the draft, and I liked other players more, blah, blah, blah. So I wasn't clicking their name. Only when they kind of fell into my lap or fell ADP wise was I clicking them. So I need to get better at just closing my eyes and clicking the button, clicking their name, getting more exposure. Again, not that I particularly care about flattening my exposures, because I'm really not going to care about that this year. Obviously, I don't want 60% of anyone. Like, that's aggressive. But I will probably have some 40% exposures this year. I probably will. Yeah, 40 something percent for sure. Zay Flowers sniped. Sniped on Zay Flowers. Guy's not even in the stream, eh? Let's see. Ahead of ADP too. That's just rude. That's just rude, eh? Nice start. Definitely a nice start. Where are we? Yeah, Mixon at the 1-2 or at the 4-5 turn, just fourth round Mixon. You couldn't pay me to click that name if I'm being honest. I'm not. These are 3 running backs that I'm just really not super comfortable with having pretty much at all. But I do have some Kamara for sure. I'm not taking a lot of Josh Jacobs at this ADP, and I'm definitely not taking much Joe Mixon at this ADP. The touches worry me for Josh Jacobs. The amount of touches that he had last year is a concern for me. Joe Mixon, touches, old, never been efficient his entire career. And then Alvin Kamara. I like Alvin Kamara. I'll take him. I'm fine with that click, but I don't want him in a room that looks like this, personally. Very, very live to not be on that team. Like we talked about last week when it was announced that Kellen Moore was the head coach, or I think we just talked about how he might be or is supposed to be or will be, whatever, because no one else wants that job, which is pretty clear that nobody wanted that job. But I think they need to get that cap situation under control and be the worst team in football. So I could see Alvin Kamara getting traded from the Saints. That's not breaking any ground. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody knows about it, thinks that should happen, blah, blah, blah. But I think they really, really have to buy into that. I really, really do. We'll see if they end up going down that road, but I really think that they need to make that happen in order to be a contender 4 years from now, sort of thing. Just be the worst team in football, get your cap under control, get first overall pick Arch Manning or whatever quarterback, ends up being the number 1, and then take it from there. I really want to pick a running back here, but there's room for that. So let's buy into this Miami Dolphins situation. Since I got Tyreek, let's just take Jalen Waddle at ADP. And then I can hopefully, if I don't get sniped, and even if I do, it's not the end of the world. I'm not too worried. If someone wants to reach on Tua, be my guest. But that might be, this will be close where we stop at 2. Probably do with Jalen Hurts going that early. I probably do stop at 2 tight ends. So Losimo, we were talking about this earlier in the stream. It's pretty tough. I think this is where Mahomes will settle ADP wise, because this is right where Worthy goes. Rashee Rice is starting to fall. So we'll see where he lands. But yeah, wow, I have to go Kenny Walker here. I will get as much Kenny Walker as I can at this ADP, which again is going to be, at the detriment of David Montgomery. I'll have 0% James Conner because I'll take Kenny Walker, I'll take Caleb Johnson, I'll take David Montgomery, I'll take Trevion Henderson all over James Conner. I'll have 0% Tyrone Tracy at this ADP. I'll take all those guys over him as well. Judkins, I would take over Tracy personally. Yeah. Got that food in you quick, eh? There you go. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier in the draft before. I think Patrick Mahomes will settle here, right here, 60, right around 60 ADP wise, because Xavier Worthy goes where he goes. So people will just be picking Patrick Mahomes right around there. But the interesting thing will be, where does Rashee Rice land? Is it going to be, and it's very likely that this does end up happening as far as ADPs are concerned, where Xavier Worthy goes at the 3-4 turn where he's going right now, and then Rashee Rice falls to where Mahomes is going to fall, and then you can go, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Patrick Mahomes in that sort of an order. That's probably where I think it lands by the end of it. But we'll see, unless there's some positive news around Rashee Rice in the near future. So we'll see where that lands. Didn't Tyreek Hill's ADP start at 53 when the contest opened? It started way too low. I'll tell you that much. Way too low. And it's still a huge value, in my opinion. I just wasn't drafting a crazy amount early, which maybe is a mistake by me. And I probably should have just went absolute ham, which again, the guy I was talking about earlier, who's already maxed out all the big board 150 entries and the little board 50, so 200 drafts at least. He's maxed them both out. If it were, I would be picking Tyreek Hill in every draft, right? Like if he's going, fourth, fifth round? If he's going in the fourth or fifth round, I would have been picking him every single time in the third. No question. So I think Tyreek is going to settle. Combines in 16 days. I think by the combine, Tyreek Hill's a 1-2 turn guy. By the combine. Which I'm very excited for. I'm sure everybody is. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it rose quickly from 53. I'm sure it rose very quickly. But I don't know. I don't know where my latest share is or was with Tyreek Hill. I think I might have a third round. We'll see. I'll have to go through my lineups at some point and take a look at where my shares landed. But where am I going here? Pick 81. Definitely don't want to go quarterback. My wide receivers are in a good spot, so I don't need to force anything there. Not a range in the draft where I like to click tight end. I'll probably be pretty close to 0% on Hawkinson and Kelsey. If I have Lamar, I'm clicking Mark Andrews as well most of the time. And I'm taking Andrews over both Hawkinson and Kelsey personally. Let's go Tony Pollard because I have 0% as it sits right now, and I think he's a value at this ADP. So I think he's got room to move up the draft board. I could go with Jared Goff, but I'm not. If I had Laporta for whatever reason, I would go down that road. But I don't need Jared Goff when I have Jalen Hurts. Nerf, eh? Doubled up on tight ends. Hopefully he's done from there. Interesting start. Definitely should be unique. Wide receivers are quality in this range. Cooper Kupp is an interesting one. I was listening to Sirius Satellite Radio, Channel 88, while I was working today. And Pat Curran was saying Cooper Kupp would be a great fit across town in the same building, doesn't even have to move with the Chargers. And I agree with that. I think that would be a great fit. Cooper Kupp, Lad McConkey, and then Quentin Johnston. I think that would make a lot of sense for the Chargers. We'll see where it lands, but I thought that made a lot of sense. 0% down somehow in this draft in the big board. But I said it the other week And I'm going to stick to my guns on this one. I'm going to start zagging where everyone else is zigging on this, and I'm going to take Isaiah Pacheco. I'm already doing that, it seems. But I think he's a value here. If you can get him a full round, which I just did after his ADP, I think that's quality. He's technically like the only running back on the Chiefs right now. And again, they have a lot of holes to fill and they don't have a lot of cap space. They can probably clean some of the cap up with restructuring. They can always do Mahomes. We'll see what happens with Kelsey. That's basically it. We'll see what happens as far as they can restructure. But they don't have a ton of cap space and they have some holes. Wide receiver, definitely some holes. Potentially with Kelsey, holes at tight end, left tackle, obviously, right? And they're about to lose Trey Smith because there's no way they can afford him. The back end of the defense has some issues, right? So there's a lot of holes to fill. And I think Pacheco being under contract, and it's his prove it year for where it's the only contract he's going to get. He was a 7th round pick, for God's sakes, right? He's made no money in his NFL career. So if he has a big career season, he has to. Basically, he has to right now. So he's going to be on this roster for sure. He's going to have a role for sure. I know everybody hates him, but I'm gonna continue to pick off some Isaiah Pacheco shares. I think it makes sense. While everyone's letting him fall, I'm gonna start scooping up some shares until he settles. I'm gonna keep taking that full round ADP value. Been taking a lot of Cooper Kupp in drafts. I don't blame you. I should definitely be getting more. Yeah, there's a lot of places he could go where he'd be a massive value. The Bills might have some money to spend this year. We'll see. They cleaned it up last offseason, got themselves some space. So the Bills could be a potential landing spot. The Chargers, like I just talked about, there's a few places he could go where he would be a great fit and put a team over the edge. Even like the Bears, right? The Bears will have a ton of money. Replace Keenan Allen with Cooper Kupp, Ben Johnson's system. Something like that could work. There's a lot of places where he could go and put a team over the edge. Even the Packers, right? That's another team that would make a ton of sense. That they're close. The Dallas Cowboys, for God's sakes, right? Dallas Cowboys would make tons of sense. Just put them over the edge. Get them into the Super Bowl contention conversation, right? We'll see where it lands, but there's a lot of places where he could go that would make a lot of sense and increase his value quite a bit. I'd really like to take a wide receiver. I think I'm falling behind, but no one really makes sense here. I did take 4 of my first 5 picks were wide receivers, so I've allocated that capital. I'm not sure. I mean, Amon-Ra and Tyreek, I should be fine. So I have to just believe in that. I don't mind taking Charbonnet with Kenny Walker. I just really, really like Clint Kubiak. If your last name is Kubiak and you're an offensive coordinator, give me those running backs. So there he goes. That's fine. I definitely like those running backs though. And then it's either DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson, or Najee. I am inclined to take Najee in this situation. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. Considering it's a little bit of a questionable running back room, but I like, that's pretty high capital. 4 running backs in my top 105. That's a fair amount of capital. I'm just a little leery on the names, but you got to believe in what you're doing. So hear me out. What if Aaron Jones just has another 1,500-yard season? It's not impossible. I think he comes back to Minnesota. Makes tons of sense. It's his best fit. I don't think going to a cold weather team like the Packers would be good for his body again. He's not going back to the Packers regardless, but I think it makes sense for him to stay in Minnesota, and I think they'll bring him back because Cam Akers is also a free agent. So I think it makes sense to bring him back. Thanks, man. Appreciate this. I like to think I know what I'm talking about. Whether I do or not is up for debate, but I like to think I know what I'm saying. I'm not a big fan or believer in some decent value on Jordan Love there. I'm not a big fan or believer in Dallas Goedert, but it makes sense with this build. So I will take him, double stack my Philly. It just makes sense. So let's do that. I'm not a big fan of Goddard. Again, he's another one of those guys that's just banged up every year. So I don't like taking the risk, but it's a lot better to take that risk in a 20-round draft where I will be drafting 3 tight ends 100%. So even if he does get banged up a little bit, as long as he's playing in the playoffs, I'll be okay with it. So we'll see where that lands. Tucker Kraft, I think, is a huge value. What I like doing a lot of times at the end, let's say I don't have a stack yet or any kind of, what looks like it could be a quality stack sort of thing. At the 9-10 turn, right about here, somewhere in here, I would have done it if it made more sense, but not with what I've done, obviously. I like to go Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft. So then you can bring in Dontavion Wicks, Dobbs if you want to. I'm a little concerned about his concussion situation. That's a sketchy situation. Anytime we're talking about multiple concussions, look at Tua, right? It's the same thing with any position player. That's why Cedric Tillman, I'm concerned about. Dude missed 5 games last year with a concussion, a single concussion. So that's where I start to get a little bit leery if there's, repeat incidents. I get a little leery about that. So we'll see where he lands. Trey Harris is a guy I've been picking off a few more shares of. I'm torn with whether he's going to be like an X trait alpha, outside wide receiver or number 2 Z trait kind of guy. I'm kind of torn with where he's going to land, but the production was there and he could have had an absolute monster season. So how would we be talking about Trey Harris right now if he was healthy for the whole college football season? We might be talking, number 1 wide receiver in the class kind of a situation. So, yeah, you gotta kind of give him that, not just at least give him that thought, give him that, like, keep that door open for him that he could have been that guy. Yeah, Dak Prescott is a huge value right here, I think. But Faraci does it. Good on you, man. You got huge value on both of them. I love that. Tucker Kraft and Jordan Love. Well done. That's really nice. And then the Jameson Williams paired up with Goff. Well done. That's one of my favorite things to do. And then, you can do it with Dak Prescott and Jake Ferguson as well. Bring it back with some rookies. Bring it back with Tolbert if you really want to, but I would probably rather a few rookies. And with Dallas, it's always okay to take Texas wide receivers, Texas players, right? So Jack Besh, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, right? All those types of guys, Savion Williams potentially. The Cowboys are always about the local kids. Definitely want to go with a wide receiver here, preferably. I'm just going to take Tua here just to guarantee it for myself. The only guy I'd be concerned with is right here. And badgeless, you never know. He probably shouldn't take him, but I I have a relative amount riding on having Tua in my lineup, so let's just make that happen. And then I am going to be done at quarterback. I want to very purposefully mix in these two quarterback builds where it makes sense. And this is a spot that I think it does make sense with Jalen Hurts. So let's do that. Mingo's going to be playing. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know if I would write that in Sharpie just yet. I would maybe write it in pencil, but I don't think I would write that in Sharpie. I definitely want to get a wide receiver here. Unless I'm just going to take Tank, get the value here. It's almost a full round. And then I'm just going to hit my wide receiver room with value or with quantity, with volume, right? I mean, my first 5 picks, I have a lot of capital sunk into these wide receivers. I'm just going to hit it with volume, considering I'm stopping at 2 quarterbacks, just smash the wide receiver room, pissed yellow for the last, 5-6 picks, whatever it is, and hope that volume can be king in this situation. I'm gonna steal that Sharpie line. Yeah, that's I stole that too from what's his name, the college basketball guy. Can't remember his name, but when talking about filling out your bracket, and he writes Sharpie or whatever. So I stole that line too. But there you go. Feel free to re-steal it from me. 4 QBs and 4 tight ends is what you want. I don't know if I'll be doing much of that. Hit them with the gritty. I don't know if I'll be doing too much of those builds. 4 tight end builds you could talk me into more than the 4 quarterback builds. Yeah. Yeah. I think I have 1 or 2 teams and drafts with 4 tight ends. But none with 4 quarterbacks. Glad I got sniped on Kincaid. Yeah, I think he's a value here. I really do. Just where it makes sense. I'm not pushing it, but I think Kincaid is a value there where he's going. And if I'm the Josh Allen drafter, then I'm pretty much 100% of the time getting Kincaid. Similar like Lamar. If I'm Lamar drafter, I'm almost 100% of the time getting Mark Andrews. That's where it just makes sense. Like, and most years where you're the Patrick Mahomes drafter, you're getting Kelsey, right? Where it just makes the most sense. It would be nice if you could match up Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin, but you'd have to pull Jaden Daniels way up the draft board to make that happen. So it's a little bit tougher. But where it's, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson with their tight ends just makes an absurd amount of sense. Even like Baker Mayfield with Cade Otton, Kyler Murray with McBride, right? Jared Goff, Laporta, Caleb Kmet, if you want to, Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, like we talked about earlier, Dak and Jake Ferguson. It's always a good idea, in my opinion. It's always pretty risk-free, realistically. Again, maybe I'm alone on this, but it's pretty risk-free to take your tight end paired up with your quarterback in a position where you're going to take 2, 3 in these big boards, potentially even 4 tight ends, right? So we're done at quarterback. Don't want a wide or running back here at all. If I absolutely have to, I guess I will take one. Tight end could be on the board, but not anymore with Otton gone. That's okay. And I'm going to have to take Coker here again, because that just is all that makes sense. I could pull up Restrepo, and maybe I will. Let's pull up. No, I'm going to take Coker. And then if he's still there, I guess I'll take Restrepo, but I'm not too concerned about it. You can get Terry and Daniels at the 3-4 sometimes. Can you get Terry McLaurin that late? At the 3-4? Maybe you used to be able to. I have done that. Yeah, you could. At one point in time, you could do that. I have that in my portfolio somewhere where I don't remember who I picked with my first 2 picks, but I have Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels. That was a nice time when you could get that, but I think there's potentially even some value there with Terry McLaurin. I think I have him ranked right at 22 or something like that. So I have him ahead of ADP right now. But I don't think you could get that at the 3-4 turn anymore. Once upon a time, those are the days. I think those days are gone now, but if you can do it, I'd do it at the drop of a hat. I'll tell you that much. Let's go with Strepo. Add a rookie, slot guy, really smart kid, heavily Ivy League recruited, Xavier Strepo. Obviously, it was more important to play football, went to the U. Looked really good with Cam Ward. I would like to see him on my Bengals. Slot receiver, I think that's what they need. I think it makes sense. That's a team that I would like to see him go to. The Bills are obviously a good fit for any wide receiver, but I think a proper slot receiver makes a lot of sense. You could say that's Shakir, but he does play on the outside a fair amount. And you can kind of move him around. And I'm going to kill this room with volume. I'll probably take one more running back, 3 tight ends, and what is that, 9 wide receivers in that case? That's probably the direction I would go. Like JT Sanders would make a lot of sense with this team, but I'm not taking multiple Carolina Panthers pass catchers without the quarterback. I do like them both, but not without the quarterback. There goes Cam Ward. Alec Pierce's name I haven't clicked much yet, as in I don't think I have it all. It's just an interesting situation there with Adonai Mitchell coming in. I really liked Adonai Mitchell as a rookie coming into the league, but now it's just a packed wide receiver room with a run first type of a quarterback. I am interested. I'm drafting a lot of Anthony Richardson, but I am interested to see how he progresses as a passer. I think they need to do some work on that offensive line, but I think it'll be in a better spot than it was last year. Yeah, they got a lot of pieces. I think the Colts are a lot closer than people think. Not necessarily in like a fantasy perspective, but in a real life win football games, go to the playoffs kind of perspective. I think the Colts are a lot closer than people think. They need some work on that defense, but they got a lot of good pieces and a decent coaching staff. We'll see. We'll see where they land, but I think they're a lot closer football wise than a lot of people would say. Ben Haskell right on brand with Harold Fannin. Gets Leggett, Bryce Young, JT Sanders. I dig that. That's a stack that I'm using quite a bit. It's got the Buffalo stack, single stack with Coleman. We'll go through all these teams and then wrap up the night. We will not be doing a third draft. Sorry about it, boys. Sorry about it. Can't make it happen. 2 drafts, 2.5 hour episode, whatever it'll end up as. Can't go too much later. We're going to go with Jordan Whittington. I personally do not think that Matt Stafford goes anywhere. I don't think that would make a lick of sense for the Rams to trade him. I know there's a lot of chatter, and I know that a lot of teams would like to have Matt Stafford for sure. Obviously, why would you not? But if Cooper Kupp goes, I think Whittington definitely has a bigger role. He looked really good in the preseason and then in a couple games early in the season. Yeah, I'd like to see him get a shot opposite Puka Nacua. And I don't think Matt Stafford goes anywhere. Yeah, beat me to the punch, fishing for an overpay. Um, I'll get Ant and Wall. Appreciate you in the chat there. I'll get to that in 2 seconds there. No, I don't think that Stafford goes anywhere. I just don't think it would make any sense in the world for the Rams to trade Matthew Stafford. Man, I really wanted Jack Besh there. That stinks. Nice pick. I've been talking him up, and then he goes higher than I was willing to pick him, I suppose. Where are we going here? Yeah, I don't think they're even like. I think it's just fodder, just chatter getting out there with the Rams Stafford situation. Like it doesn't make any sense. The Rams, you could say, were a few plays away from potentially being, Super Bowl contenders and potentially beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Let's go Wandale. I think makes the most sense here. For sure. Definitely would have went Jack Besh, but let's get some Wandale. Yeah, I don't think he goes anywhere. It just doesn't make sense. I think they definitely draft like a Will Howard type, something like that. I think that would make a lot of sense. And then, what they wanted Stetson Bennett to be, who wasn't, right? Yeah, we'll see. Rams have Jimmy G and Stetson Bennett. If someone gave them a ridiculous good offer, nah. Stetson Bennett is not mentally stable. He's not. They have no trust in Stetson Bennett, nor should they. And Jimmy G is this 3-letter word that you just called him. He's absolute ass for sure. He's just washed, is what he is. He's just older, injuries. Like, it is what it is. But Stetson Bennett is not mentally capable of being an NFL quarterback or even like a backup. He's and again, they have zero trust in him whatsoever. So yeah, there you go. But let's get to Ant and Wall. Ant Wall, I think. Appreciate you coming out. Thoughts on Curtis for backstacking Allen? I don't mind that. They have a lot of gaps in the wide receiver room. Mac Hollins, Amari Cooper are both probably not going to be there. Maybe Mac Hollins comes back, but not that does anything, for the Curtis Samuel situation. I just didn't really like what I saw out of Curtis Samuel. He came on towards the end of the season though, which I did like to see. You gotta like to see that if you're a fan. He has all the tools in the world. He's very familiar with the Joe Brady offense from the Carolina Panther days. He didn't run the ball as much as I expected and other people probably did. Doesn't mean that can't change next year. He's still actually quite young. I think he's maybe 29, but I think he's 28. Let's check here. I think he's 28. 28. Yeah, turns 29 in August, so right before the season starts. So there's still some room there. It's just a matter of who they bring in, because they will bring in some pass catchers for sure, specifically wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that. In this tournament, when it's a 20th round free pick, you could do a lot worse than Curtis Samuel. I think he most certainly will be on the roster. Let's take a quick peek at his contract. Actually, he is under contract with the Bills. Yeah, he's going to be on this team. Oh, for sure. He's going to be on this team 99.9%. So, yeah, absolutely. 20th round pick. He's free. No one's going to be picking Curtis Samuel. So he's also unique. So I'm perfectly fine with doing that. Perfectly fine. I do want one more running back. Probably another wide receiver and a couple tight ends is what I'll be after. Fossil, you just scoop me on Mike Gesicki. That sucks for me. I would have absolutely picked Mike Gesicki. I should have went with him over Wandale, actually. Man, hit him with the gritty. Might get his wish. I might go with 4 tight ends in this build. I think I can get away with these 5 running backs. I'm done with quarterbacks. I'd like to throw another wide receiver in there. I might be going with 4 tight ends in this situation. Let's get Chigakonkwo in here. There's just not enough to make me even feel super comfortable with 3, if I'm being honest. Almost went Braylon, but remembered I had Brees. Yeah, it's fine to do that. Like, it's really fine to do that. I think that's a viable strategy that a lot of people are not doing. Like, I don't love to pick handcuffs with the running back, like my anchor running back or my hero running back or whatever you want to call them. I don't typically like doing that, but when the value makes sense, when the draft capital makes sense, then yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you? Especially, like I said, with I'm doing it a ton with Seattle. I'm doing it a ton with both Kenny Walker and Charbonnet. Who would I pick as my last wide receiver? Might have been Savion, but Lawson will save me from taking him. Darius Slayton could be on the board. Elijah Moore could be on the board. I wouldn't mind another rookie, though. If you're just popping in, Tyquan Thornton's a name worth just keeping a small eye on. Don't click his name. Don't draft him. Just keep an eye on him. He just signed a futures deal. He was already on this practice squad, but they're going to be pretty depleted, and you never know. Like, Sky Moore is one of the only under contract wide receivers for the Chiefs right now. Let's just bring in Ricky White because I like him a lot, and I would like another rookie here. It's either him or Noel, and I'll take Ricky White. And then I'm probably going to round it out with 2 more tight ends, potentially rookies. At least one will be a rookie. What is the tight end situation actually looking like in New Orleans? Let's look. Let's take a peek. Morrow, Juwan Johnson's a free agent. Okay. So where does he go? Where does he go? He's gone anyways. Okay, don't worry about it. I think Fant is a free agent as well, actually. Wait, what are we doing here? Jeez. I'm probably going to go, I guess, with Bretton Strange then. I think Evan Ingram will not be a Jaguar. What did we miss in the chat here? I prefer handcuffs in cheaper situations like Zach Moss, Chase Brown last year. I prefer not to do it with my top 3 or 4 round picks. Yeah, but then, where's Braylon Allen going? 15th round? Something like that, right? Where is he? Where did he go? Wow, did he go really early? Am I blind? There you go. 17th round, Braylon Allen. So the Bengals quarter running backs were going like 8th, 9th, something like that. So end of the draft, one of your last picks, and a 3rd round pick. What's the real difference as far as draft capital is concerned? So I don't mind personally. If you don't do it. I've done 9 drafts so far and got 4 TEs in 8 of them and 3 TEs in 1 of them. Tight ends, that's fine. I mean, I know you do different things, and that's fine. Do different things. Absolutely do different stuff. Get unique. And it is a viable strategy. And these free rounds, like realistically, it's a very viable strategy to not pick a single tight end until the last 4 rounds and then plow four tight ends. That is a very viable strategy. That's borderline what I'm doing right now. Pretty close to what I'm doing right now, right? 3 of my last 4 picks are going to be tight end. And I'm going to go Bretton Strange here because I don't think that Evan Ingram is going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar next year. Personally. He talked about going to Denver, United Payton. Yeah, that'd be a good fit. Fant's not a free agent. You're right. I did look at that, actually. I did look at that the other day. And AJ Barner, yeah, we talked about it on stream a couple streams ago because we were talking about Fant and Barner eating into each other again. Yeah, you're right. You are right. Juwan to Casey would be fun. Yeah, that would be fun, but not super, super likely. I think they like Jared Wiley and obviously, Gray they like, and we're still unsure with Kelsey. I'll still take Bernie Braylon and non-fair enough. Fair enough. I just handcuffed New England running backs, hoping they don't draft stud. Yeah, I don't think they do. I think that's fine too. That's another team you can draft, both the running backs. I think there's too many other holes on that team. I really do. And I don't think I don't think running back or wide receiver is a huge, huge need for New England. Jesus, it's getting late, boys. I don't sink a lot of capital, whether that's free agent money or draft capital, into either running back or wide receiver. If I'm New England, I don't pay T Higgins. I don't draft a first round wide receiver. Maybe you can get away with it with if you do want to go with Travis Hunter and then play him both ways a little bit, like I've kind of talked about. Then maybe you can get away with that. But I think they have to work on that offensive line and the defense and just piece everything together around Drake May. You can get wide receivers. And then if the team comes together and you have Drake May and he is a guy, wide receivers will come. They will voluntarily come to the franchise. So we'll see how that plays out and how that lands. And yeah, Ben will plow the 4 tight ends at the end of drafts. I think it's a very viable strategy. Depends on the capital that you're sinking in is my only concern with it, though. Very much depends on your draft capital. Gunnar Helm on the board. Haven't drafted him yet. And one of my cool late clicks that I like that no one else does is Terrence Ferguson. But let's go Gunnar Helm because I've drafted Terrence Ferguson a few times. This will be my first Helm share, so let's get one in there. Makes sense in a 4 tight end build. I actually like this. It's weird and different, especially for me, but I actually don't mind it. If I got Gesicki and Okonkwo, I'd be fine, or even Gesicki Strange, Gesicki Helm. If I had Dallas Goedert, Mike Gesicki, and any one of these 3, I'd be fine with 3 tight ends. But I don't mind this build. It's definitely a unique 2-5-9-4. That's definitely unique to me. But I think it makes sense. You literally name dropped Gunnar right when I started him. Yeah, fair enough. Most quality drafters, I think alike or similarly. You were going to go with 4 there. I think you're all right at 3. As long as Tyler Higbee stays healthy, which should by next year, should be fine. I like JT Sanders. Harold Fannin is still quite a bit unknown. 4 tight ends would have been okay here. a couple more picks and we'll wrap up these teams and then we'll get everybody out of here. And then I'll probably be back, not tomorrow. I got to catch up on some work stuff. Not tomorrow, but probably either Thursday or if not Thursday, then Friday for sure. So hit the like button for me, subscribe button, notification bell so you don't miss a stream. That'd go a long way. I'd really appreciate it. Keeps the stream alive. But yeah, we're going to be going hot and heavy in big board season. And then we'll get to talk about the combine soon. So before the combine, I will show my spreadsheet again with it a bunch more filled out. I'm struggling with these wide receivers a lot. My running backs are pretty much completely done. My tight ends are pretty much completely done. Quarterbacks are kind of whatever, if I'm being honest, except for, the first pick, which is Cam Ward for me. But I'm really struggling with these tight ends or these wide receivers, and I've watched almost all of them. I've definitely done a lot of digging into the wide receivers. I'm just really undecided on rankings and how I want to rank these guys. But let's dig into these drafts. And like I said, I'll show that before the combine, and then it might move some things around a little bit. Not crazy, but it might move some things around a little bit after the combine. And then that'll be done. Once the combine's over, my rankings will be completely finished. Thoughts on Jalen Royals? I like him a lot, actually. I'll read my notes. I won't show the spreadsheet right this second, but I'll read my notes on Jalen Royals. I had a pretty good grade on him. Late bloomer, plenty of speed, season-ending foot injury, curbed monster season. Nice hands, could be good. Wide receiver 2, a Z. He could be a Z in a lot of offenses. Very well disciplined guy, military family, grew up in a military family, went to the Georgia Military Academy or Georgia Military College, I think is exactly what it's called, before he went to Utah State. So like I said, late bloomer as far as that's concerned. He played like JUCO, level football before he went to Utah State, only 2 years at Utah State. But yeah, plenty of speed. The injury, again, similar to Trey Harris, kind of curbed his season a little bit, but very much a Z wide receiver, in my opinion. So that's kind of my thoughts and notes. But like I said, I'll show that spreadsheet again before the start of the combine. Should have drafted wide receiver rather than Jerome Ford, I assume you mean. Let's take a look at the teams first. Let's start with Ben at the top. Josh Allen, Bryce Young, that's fine. Perfectly fine. You could basically go any wide receiver with Josh Allen. Sorry, any other quarterback paired with Josh Allen and stop at 2 pretty comfortably. That's fine in my opinion. Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, RJ Harvey, Kendre Miller, Marshawn Lloyd. I like that. Hopefully Kendrick can stay healthy this year. He's pretty live to potentially lead this backfield by the end of the season, given that we could see Alvin Kamara traded and dump some cap, but we'll see how that works out. RJ Harvey scored a shit ton of touchdowns in college. I'm worried about his size, 5'7", a bit of a smaller guy. Ball of energy, though. Former quarterback, which we saw in the Senior Bowl. He had a passing touchdown in that game. But I like this room. That's very quality. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, Cooper Kupp, Keon Coleman, Stephon Diggs, Xavier Legette. I like that. I'm not a Stephon Diggs guy at all, but again, you got tons of ADP value there, so can't blame you. And everything else makes tons of sense. I likely get tons of value there too, have almost a full round quality. So, oh yeah, you paired that up with double stack Bryce Young, single stack Keon Coleman, unless Cooper Kupp makes his way or Devontae Adams makes his way to the Bills for some while or a reunion. Stephon Diggs, which I quite highly doubt, but you never know. Harold Fannin, not likely to go to the Bills at all. JT Sanders pairs up with Young. Tyler Higbee should be back and healthy, hopefully. That's an interesting one. I don't mind the click whatsoever. He's just eventually going to completely break down at some point. Taysom Hill is he's going to be 35, I believe, to start the season, 35, 36 maybe to start at some point throughout the NFL season. So, and man, the way he runs the ball and has run the ball, plays on special teams, a lot of hits. Eventually, not that there's nothing wrong with this click whatsoever, but he eventually is just going to fall apart on the football field, most likely. But I like the team. Yeah, nothing wrong with the squad at all. Strong wide receiver room. Anytime you have Josh Allen, it's a strong quarterback room. Running backs could be a little light potentially, depending on Aaron Jones, really. But yeah, don't mind that team whatsoever. Farachi, did you do this last time too? Goff and Love, or someone did last time. I like that. I think that that's viable for a 2 quarterback room. I think that that's pretty much like the perfect like floor of stopping at 2 quarterbacks. Goff and Love specifically. Maybe there's a Dak you could throw in there potentially. I don't know, maybe some other guys, but that's that. We saw that in the last draft as well. So that makes tons of sense. I'm fine with that. I like that. Saquon, Travion Henderson, Rashad White, Blake Corum. Jalen Wright's an interesting one for me. We need to see more. He struggled as a rookie, but he should get a little bit more opportunity in second season. And I liked him a lot as a rookie, so I don't mind that click. Trevor Etienne, I'm not personally a fan of, but I can understand it. I like that though, but anytime Barkley's in the room, Henderson I love, White can get it done, and then one of these guys kind of have to show up a few times throughout the season, and you should be fine. But I like that room. Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison, Emeka Ibuka, Darnell Mooney, Andre Yoshibas, Michael Wilson, Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker should be on the roster. I would be, he might get pushed down a little bit, but he should definitely be on the roster. Detroit, Green Bay got the craft with the value on the Jordan Love. That was an excellent wrap for you. Colston Loveland, Elijah Arroyo with Tucker Craft. I like that. 2 quality rookies. And Tucker Craft, I'm a big fan of this year. Obviously, no correlation. Or sorry, you got Jameson Williams. Geez. So Jameson Williams, and then the single stack. So single stack both, that's fine. I like it. Yeah. Quality team. Good wide receiver room for sure. I'm fine with the tight end room. Definitely fine with the running back room, and I'm fine with the quarterbacks. That's well put together. I dig it. Fossil in the chat. Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, I like that a lot. I've done that a time or two myself. I like that a lot. 2 rushing quarterbacks, and you have that high floor and high ceiling starter. No need to bring in a third. I like that quite a bit. Well done. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, I love that start. Ramondre, Jerome Ford. Isn't that what you said? Wide receiver instead of Ford. Yeah. I don't mind Jerome Ford. Like I'm completely out. You won't catch me drafting Nick Chubb a single time this offseason. So I don't mind Ford. I think they definitely bring someone in, whether that's a free agent or a rookie or both. But I don't mind Jerome Ford whatsoever. Isaac Rendo, I like that. Handcuff. Yeah, 2 running backs for the Patriots. I don't mind that room at all, especially when you're starting with Gibbs and Taylor. You can get away with a lot down here, right? So, and you could do a lot worse. Maybe throw a rookie in there, considering the class, but that's fine. Totally fine. Rome Odunze, George Pickens, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Rashad Bateman, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell, Jalen Knoll, Torrey Horton. Torrey Horton's a guy I might take a peek at. Colorado State wide receiver. I might have to take a peek at his tape. I've heard a couple people tout him a little bit, so I might have to take a peek at Torrey Horton. But stacked up, the Indianapolis Colts, don't hate it. One of these guys you figure have got to pop off like per week, hopefully, or close to it. And then Bateman, I think you have Andrews too. Yep, and likely. So triple stack, both your rushing quarterbacks might be a little bit overkill considering they're both rushing quarterbacks, right? So it might be a little overkill to triple stack both of them, but not the end of the world. I like this room though. Mark Andrews, Likely, and Gesicki. I actually don't mind that at all. I don't love the ADP and the draft capital for Likely. I just think it should be lower than it is. I really, really do. It would make me more comfortable. Not that it can't be a viable strategy though. So don't mind that. I think you would admit the wide receiver room is a little bit shallow, but not that it can't work. I like Noel, and I got to take a peek at Horton personally. Like the running back room, like the quarterback room, for sure. Lolsimo, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, I like it. I think you can get away with that. Like I said earlier in the stream, I think the Jags might end up being one of those teams like we talked about it earlier, the Tampa Bay Bucks a couple years ago, the Washington Commanders, the even Bengals last year, that sort of a thing. We'll see where it lands, but I don't mind that. You can get away with it for sure. Ashton Genty, Jalen Warren, Tajay Spears, Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson's an interesting one for me. He fell out of my top 10 running backs, but I thought I was going to love him actually. Either way, Austin Eckler, DJ Giddens, Brashad Smith. Yeah, you can get away with that. You can get away with that. I mean, I'm not clicking Ashton Genty that high, but it doesn't mean it's bad or bad process or doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that, which is entirely on the table. I like Jalen Warren. I think he does come back. He's a restricted free agent right now, but I think the Steelers definitely do bring him back, and maybe not Najee. I like Tajay Spears. Liked him last year, like him this year. Giddens, big body guy. He can get the job done. I like him. I like DJ Giddens to go to the Commanders personally. I think a read option offense would make tons of sense for DJ Giddens, but we'll see where he lands. And Brashad Smith, I talked about it earlier, could be the best pass catching running back in this class. So I don't mind that room. Touch shallow. I'm sure you'd say that too, but it can work. Brian Thomas to pair up with your quarterback. Xavier Worthy pairs up with your quarterback. Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy, Jacoby Myers. Tillman, I'm concerned about, missing that many games, the concussion, and then didn't come back to end the season either is a concern at this ADP. But again, doesn't mean it can't be viable. Doesn't mean he can't be completely healthy. Savion Williams, I really like. I think that it's fully worth the boomer bust potential there. And then Elijah Moore, I don't mind that pick whatsoever. Decent room. Yeah, a lot of things play off each other. I dig it. That's a good room. Kelsey, Ingram, Henry. Ingram, I don't think is going to be a Jag personally. I think they're going to save the money. I think they probably try to trade him for sure, and it might work. We'll see. He is under contract with the Jags, but they can save a bunch of cap by trading him, and I think that'll happen. They can cut him too, but I think he's worth something in a trade, maybe to a team like my Bengals, and they don't bring back Gesicki. That could happen. I would actually be fully on board with that. We'll see. I don't think he ends up as a Jag, but again, he is under contract right now with the team, so we'll see where it lands. And then Kelsey obviously might retire, but again, huge ADP value. Hunter Henry, steady Eddie, he should be fine. I don't mind this, regardless, even if it's Ingram and Henry, but at the end of the day, it's okay. It's a little shallow, obviously, if Kelsey retires, especially. If Kelsey doesn't retire, then you're fine. Completely fine. If he does retire, then obviously it's a little light, but we don't have a crystal ball in front of us, so who knows? I like your wide receiver room, though, for sure. These top 5 are quite good. I like Savion Williams, and then last pick more. Only one I would have gripe with would be Tillman. A little shallow on the running back room, but yeah, this can definitely work for sure. We'll finish it off with the OTS squad. Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa. That's fine. That's fine. I can get away with that with Tua as long as he's paired with a Hurts, an Allen, a Burrow, right? A Daniels. I can get away with 2 there, I think. So I'm all right with that. Kenny Walker, Tony Pollard, Isaiah Pacheco, Najee Harris, and Tank Bigsby. I think that works. Obviously, relatively high draft capital in my running back room. No rookies, which is kind of sad, but that's okay. It made sense with what I had to do. I think I can get away with it for sure. Yeah, I think I can definitely get away with that room. We'll see how it works out. Amon-Ra, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Coker, Xavier Restrepo, Jordan Whittington, Wan'Dale Robinson, Ricky White. I quite a bit like the wide receiver room though. Huge break, 100 picks between Waddle and Coker, but just smash it with volume, and I should be able to make it happen as long as these two are showing up in my lineup pretty much every week, which they should. Then I should be all right. Ricky White's my fun prospect. I think I like Ricky White a lot. If you haven't watched his tape, go check it out. Dallas Goedert pairs up with my quarterback. So I'm double stack Philly, double stack Miami, Chigakonkwo, Bretton Strange, and Gunnar Helm. One of the rare types of instances where I'd take 4 tight ends. But I think it does make sense. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Let's take a quick peek at the chat again. Yeah, I'm not big on Taysom either, but end around 20 flyer. I just hope he comes back healthy. Yeah. Again, I think his body's just gonna break down eventually, and it'll probably happen on the football field. For God's sakes, like the guy takes a lot of big hits. He missed a bunch of weeks with he fractured his sternum or something like that. He had a bad chest injury, but he played after it. So we'll see. No worries, man. Anytime. Appreciate you coming out and drafting with me. Chubb is a UFA. I think you're right on that. So we'll see where he goes, but I'm out on Chubb regardless of anything. I get it if you're off because of injuries though. I help steam him up to around 20, but taking a pick for 200. Yeah. There's just really no need in my opinion. I'd rather take a shot on any rookie, or you're not taking them before pick 200 for sure. I just would rather take a shot on a rookie or, Gibson or Estime. There's other guys in that range that I would take ahead of Chubb, no problem. Thanks Fossil for coming out. Appreciate the sub, coming out and drafting. That's awesome. This class is so deep though. I think the best class since 2017. Depth of legit players at running back. I think I saw a tweet today. It's the best class since nothing that crazy. I think it was 2019 or something like that, or 2021 maybe. I can't remember the class, but there was another class that had 5 quality running backs in it. Probably the Bijan Gibbs year, probably. But either way, it's a fantastic running back class. So there you go. That's going to be it for the night. Long stream again, 2.5 hours. Appreciate you guys coming in. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. We'll do a stream again, probably either Thursday or Friday. I might give myself 2 days in between, do some tape work. I do have a couple more tight ends, and I might dig into some tape a little bit more on the wide receivers so I can get those rankings wrapped up. I really need to put some work in there as far as getting rankings done. But so either Thursday or Friday, hit the notification bell. But like I always say on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight, one of us were right and we bank a big tournament. But we'll see you guys a little later in the week. Have yourself